So last week, I think we're looking at sprinkler heads part 1. So looking at terms of kind of how they operate, the different colours, the spray patterns, different ways you can install them, talking about concealed heads and the sidewall heads, different finishes you can have. So we went through lots of different types, different styles, ways of sort of classifying different sprinkler heads. Quite a geeky subject, really, but yeah, if that's of interest, then that will be on our website and on our YouTube channel for you to look back on and watch again. As the name suggests, I called it part 1, so that does suggest there will be a part 2 and maybe even a part 3. So there is more to say on sprinkler heads, which we'll come to another time. So today's presentation is going to be all about Legionella and biofilming. So this is a brand new presentation. So this isn't kind of going over old territory. This is brand new. So yeah, hope you find that useful. Hope you enjoy that. And obviously I'll be talking about Legionella and biofilming in general, but then I'll be linking them to sprinkler systems, because of course this is sprinkler talk, and yeah, all the topics that we cover are linked to automatic fire sprinkler systems. Let me just check that the Facebook stream is good. Yeah, that is working. Lovely. All right, so it's 10 o'clock, so I think I will make a start. So just a quick introduction. Once again, my name is Andy, and I work for Project Fire. We're based in Staffordshire, and we sell products for the automatic fire sprinkler industry. So we sell products such as Zone Check, but we sell a whole load of other products as well. So yeah, do check out our website for more information. And yeah, contact me, or yeah, just get in touch, and we'll see how we can help. But yeah, today's presentation, Legionella and biofilming. Okay, let's crack on. Presume that the presentation can be seen by everybody this time, because I did sort of stop it and start it again, which seemed to help last time. So, going to start with a disclaimer. Hooray! So yeah, just wanted to say, you know, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist, so obviously the information that I have gathered about Legionella and about biofilming has been taken from, you know, various websites, but also various documentations have been published by the HSE, for example, and the Fire Risk Authority, the FPA. So yeah, I'm confident that the information I've got is good and is reliable, but yeah, just bear in mind that, you know, this isn't my area of expertise really, but yeah, I'm sort of doing my best to present the information to you. Okay, let's start with biofilming then. So what is it? I've got a nice little definition here. A biofilm comprises any syntropic consortium of microorganisms in which cells stick to each other and often also to a surface. So yeah, I think that needs sort of opening up a little bit more. Syntropic is probably a word that you're not familiar with. I certainly wasn't when I came across this definition. Getting a bit geeky again, this is taken from a Greek word. Two Greek words kind of merged together. You've got syn, which means together, and you've got tropic, which kind of means nourishment. So that word there is basically talking about kind of eating together, being joined together for the purpose of nourishment, and that kind of links in with consortium. So consortium is a word that is talking about sort of working together. You know, that there's kind of a shared goal going on here. So you know, these microorganisms are joining together. They could just be joining to each other. So they could be sort of suspended in a liquid, for example, kind of stuck together, and it might present itself like a kind of a film or a slime within a liquid. That could be a biofilm, but often they actually attach themselves to a surface, and that's when that they can kind of get this kind of harder kind of surface to them. That they join together is not necessarily the same microorganisms, can be a mixture of different types, and they protect each other, and they share the nutrients together. So it's quite odd really to think about these kind of terms for things that are so small and so kind of primitive in nature, but a biofilm is quite an organised structure for mutual benefits. So I found this kind of alternative definition, which sounded quite good. So they've got a three-dimensional structure. So it's not just flat, they're building kind of up as well. And it's like a community lifestyle for microorganisms. So like a city for microbes, kind of working together. A good example of a biofilm is plaque. So plaque is a biofilm which forms on your teeth. We've all got some plaque. You might have a lot, you might have a little. But it likes to live in our mouths. So we obviously the bacteria comes from breathing things in, drinking, eating, going swimming, anything else that we're doing. We're obviously going to pick up bacteria in our mouths, and they kind of stick together, and they form these miniature sort of cities. And then plaque, as we know, it is quite hard. It is attached quite firmly to our teeth. It's quite difficult to get off once it's on. But if you wanted an example of a biofilm, then plaque is a good one to go for. I found these kind of images online. This is the stages of biofilming. So first, you've already got initial attachment, so that's just some bacteria kind of lying on a surface. At that point, it is quite easy to remove the bacteria, which I guess is why brushing your teeth regularly is good, because we can kind of catch any kind of bacteria that's new to our teeth surface. We can brush that away very quickly. But then it changes to what's called irreversible attachment. Now, when it says irreversible, it doesn't mean that you can't detach it, but it does mean that the microorganisms have changed their state. Something kind of happens on a chemical level, which means that they kind of bind into the surface that they're on, which means that they're actually now quite difficult to detach from the surface. Number 3, microconally formation. So they're starting to kind of build together, kind of mass together, creating kind of these kind of structures. And then number 4, we have biofilm maturation. And then number 5, we have dispersion. So we actually have the kind of the city kind of opening itself up, and some of these bacteria kind of burst out of this kind of city, and then they would go and find somewhere new to live. So it does. If you kind of magnified it all a million times, it actually is quite scary, really. Quite kind of alien in kind of alien invasion type stuff, really. But obviously this happens on a kind of molecular, very very small micro level. That's what we get, and that's how they form, and that's how they spread. So factors for formation, we need some suitable bacteria to kind of start the process off. So these biofilms don't come from nowhere, so you've got to start with some suitable bacteria which are going to form onto a surface, and that obviously that host material has to be of suitable type. I guess there are lots of factors to do with whether it's a suitable material or not, but one of the key ones is kind of a texture, a roughness. If the surface is very, very smooth, it's going to be difficult for the bacteria to kind of latch on to the surface. So in our kind of world, plastic and copper, for example, are quite smooth materials. So it's going to be harder for the bacteria to grab hold of. If we're using steel or galvanized steel, for example, it's a rougher texture, and therefore they can grip on a bit better. Temperature, we'll kind of get onto that a bit later, but yet they, as with most of the kind of these microorganisms and stuff, they like it warm. They don't like it too cold. They don't like it too hot. Nutrients available, so they need some kind of organic matter to feed off. So that could be mud, it could be any rust, silt, deposits within the water or within the kind of the liquid medium to actually sustain them and to basically to feed them. So that's what we need for the formation of biofilming. Come on. Okay, moving on to Legionella. So Legionella is a gram-negative bacteria, and again I had to kind of stop and look up what that meant. This is essentially a way of classifying bacteria, so that they kind of split them into two different types. So it's either gram-negative or gram-positive, and that relates to the kind of layer around them, whether it's thin or whether it's thick. So gram-negative, I think, is a thin layer around them. But yeah, so it's just a way of classifying the bacteria. And yeah, Legionella is a type of bacteria, and it's very common to many environments. So it's all around us all the time. You can find it in soil, in water. But yeah, basically wherever you've got organic matter, then there may be this type of bacteria within there. So Legionella, the bacteria, can cause legionellosis, which is basically being ill from having Legionella. So Legionnaire's disease is basically a subtype of legionellosis, and Legionnaire's disease is obviously the thing that we've heard of. That can give you various symptoms. Such as a headache, feeling tired, but also things like a fever and pneumonia type symptoms. And in order to get legionellosis, you would need to inhale the bacteria. So if you were to eat it or to swallow it, it isn't going to do you any harm. It's only when you inhale it, when it gets into your lungs, that's when the problem starts. So obviously it starts to say that these kind of pneumonia symptoms is a lung disease basically. There's about at least 50 species of types of Legionella bacteria. It's not transmissible from person to person, so it isn't, legionellosis and Legionnaire's disease isn't something that you can catch. Again, you would have to kind of inhale the bacteria. Most people exposed to the bacteria do not become ill, and most people that become ill do not die. So the mortality rate is estimated at sort of 10 to 15%. But say, most people that are exposed to the bacteria won't become ill at all. It's kind of underlying issues. Same with COVID, really. If you've got underlying health issues, then you're more likely to have problems with Legionella. So, for example, if you're older than 45, if you're a smoker, heavy drinker, for example, if you've got immune problems, if you've got kidney problems or lung issues, then you're more likely to be affected by Legionella. And the reason why we're kind of linking Legionella and biofilming together is because Legionella can form as part of a biofilm. So a biofilm, say, is a collection of bacteria and microorganisms, and Legionella can be one of those microorganisms which is joining this kind of microorganism city. So where you have biofilming, you have an increased risk of having Legionella. Just because you've got biofilming doesn't necessarily mean you've got Legionella. For example, we talked about the plaque on our teeth. I don't think we have Legionella within the plaque, but some types of biofilming can have Legionella kind of within the habitat, and obviously biofilming increases the amount of the bacteria around. So basically, biofilming is bad if we want to combat Legionella. So Legionella outbreaks. Famously, the reason why it's called Legionnaire's disease or Legionella is because of this conference which was held in Philadelphia in 1976 for the American Legion, like the British Legion, but in America. So you can straight away you can imagine the type of people which were attending this conference were going to be older guys, many of whom with underlying health conditions. So obviously with the actual outbreak came from what's called a cooling tower of air conditioning system. So when I saw the phrase cooling tower, I thought about a power station cooling tower because that's kind of what springs to mind. But an air conditioning system will always have a way of kind of using stored water to cool the air. It's kind of part of the way in which an air conditioning system works. So that area which the kind of water droplets are expelled, that's what we're talking about really. So that's how they kind of breathed in these particles of water which contained the bacteria. So there were over 200 cases, and sadly 34 of these people died. So it wasn't surprising that investigation was brought in. Why are all these people suddenly being ill and being dead? Obviously, they were all at the same conference. Many of whom stayed at the kind of the same hotel that they were in. So that's when it kind of got investigated, and it was linked back and therefore called Legionella. A couple of more outbreaks in the UK. So we had one in 1985 at Staffordshire Hospital. Again, linked to air conditioning system. Over 100 cases, 28 deaths. Leisure facility, Barrow-in-Furness, 2002. Again, air conditioning, 180 cases and 7 deaths. I've got a few figures for you for last year. So in 2019 in the UK, there were 516 cases of Legionella sort of reported and confirmed. There weren't any deaths. The highest number in the West Midlands, which is actually where I live. So that's interesting. Don't know why that is. But those figures come from Public Health England. And the last sort of outbreak in the UK was March last year at residential premises in Westminster. And that was linked back to the domestic water supply. 3 cases. So, I've used the word outbreak, but I guess any more than one case at a time would maybe be considered to be sort of important and an outbreak. So that was only 3 cases there. It's a fairly rare issue, and deaths are fairly rare these days. Documented sources of Legionella. So air conditioning equipment, as I've already mentioned. Other things, swimming pools, domestic water systems, showers. Obviously, showers, warm environment, creating this kind of spray of water to breathe it in. ice making machines, refrigerator cabinets, whirlpool spas, hot springs, fountains, dental equipment, soil, there should be a comma there, windshield washer fluid, so yeah, for cars, you need to watch out for that, industrial coolant and wastewater treatment plants. So you will notice that sprinkler systems and any fixed fire suppression systems is not on my list because there have been no documented cases of Legionella from a firefighting system or a sprinkler system. So that's an important fact to talk about. Yes, we need to be careful. Yes, there are some things that we can do to best ensure that we don't get Legionella in that kind of environment, but there haven't been so far any confirmed cases of Legionella from a sprinkler system or any similar type of fire system. So Legionella in sprinkler systems. So first of all, you say we need to breathe the bacteria in for that to be to kind of catch it, if you like. So that the sprinkler discharge from a sprinkler system, the water discharge, is too large for the transmission of the bacteria. So why exactly I don't know, but I've been told that what we're looking for is water droplets less than 5 micrometers, which is 0.00. I wrote this down somewhere actually. 0.005, I think, millimeters. Whereas sprinkler droplets, are 20 times larger than that. Sorry, 200 times larger than that. So, the actual discharge from the sprinkler system is too large. And even, so you might, like me, start thinking, okay, what about mist systems? Because mist systems have smaller droplets. Still, I think that they would be too large. But again, I'm not an expert in mist systems, but yeah, that they would be maybe only 10 times too large, but they would still be too large. However, any stored water with the right conditions is a risk, and obviously a lot of sprinkler systems are storing water, either in the tank or actually kind of in the pipes themselves. And the more kind of stuff that we have in the pipes, then the higher the risk. So if we've got lots of mud, rust, sludge, organic matter coming into the pipework, then all of that is going to increase the risk of bacteria forming, biofilms, Legionella, etc. And there's also a higher risk if the water is stored between 20 and 45 degrees Celsius. So that is that's kind of the temperature which Legionella likes, and say the vast majority of bacteria they like it to be warm. So yeah, if our mostly for sprinkler systems we're going to be storing the water below 20 degrees C, and therefore the problem is, well, not completely disappeared, but again vastly reduced. So yeah, in terms of a sprinkler system, so we've got our water storage tank. So that is a potential risk of Legionella, and also actually sitting in the pipes themselves. So some precautions then. Say avoid storing the water at temperature between 20 and 45. Like I say, I would have thought that'd be fairly easy, but maybe you've got your water storage tank within a kind of a plant environment where lots of systems are running, generating heat. So maybe the temperature would get up a bit higher. Maybe it's a residential system where you're maybe storing it in the loft, and so temperatures maybe could reach, temperature of the water could maybe go a bit higher. But yeah, ideally we want to be storing it, I suppose, above or below, but obviously a lot easier to do it below than above. Avoid creating water spray. So yeah, that's just something to bear in mind when we're doing testing on our sprinkler system. We just need to bear in mind that when we're creating a spray, as I've already said, we think the droplets are too large anyway. But any spray that we create, if we can avoid that, then that'll be better. Clear and correct as fitted drawings. So yeah, I mean, that's good for lots of different reasons. It's always good to have good, clear and correct as fitted drawings. But one of those things, it just it just allows you to kind of map the sprinkler system and identify any particular hazards, and just think things through. Helps with the Legionella risk assessment, which should be completed for every building, and the sprinkler system should form part of that risk assessment. And from that risk assessment, you will identify monitoring, inspection, and maintenance procedures, which again are quite sort of general ones, really, rather than sprinkler-specific ones. An emergency plan for discovery of Legionella. So again, I'm taking that from the HSE sort of advice. So what they're saying is that as a business or as an industrial environment, life safety environment, if you discover Legionella, then there ought to be a plan to say, right, okay, we're gonna move these people out and put them here. We're then going to drain their water out of there, and there should be a plan in place for what to do if we discover Legionella, rather than kind of making it up at the time. Water storage tanks covered or enclosed where possible to exclude sunlight and particulate matter. So that's again pretty obvious, really. Designed to eliminate dead ends where possible. So again, that was sort of taken from a reliable source. I suppose really that is more suitable for kind of plumbing installations. I mean, if we go back to our diagram, I mean, in a sprinkler system, we've effectively got dead ends all over the place, because that's just the nature of the sprinkler system. It is quite unusual to have systems that are kind of linked together into a kind of a loop. So yeah, the vast majority of the distribution, the vast majority of the range pipes are going to be dead ends. That there may be drains at the end, but they're going to be very rarely used. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of dead ends created. So I did kind of smile when I saw that one, really. Tanks inspected and monitored for rust, internal deposits, and biofilm. So yeah, again, we need to look after our tanks. We need to keep them clean. If we need to get free from these kind of deposits, and if we spot biofilming, then we ought to be doing something about it. So yeah, we need to clean our tanks in accordance with the standards. So I mean that isn't that's not an every week, it's not an every year thing. It's kind of every 5 years, 10 years, or something like that. But yeah, we need to keep an eye on the tanks. We can flush our pipe work when necessary. That would help. Pipe work drained and removed when no longer useful. So what that's saying is that if you've got an unoccupied building, or you've made a decision that that maybe the sprinklers are no longer required, then getting them out rather than just kind of leaving them there with the water stagnant, it'll be good. A biocide such as chlorine dioxide. So I put an asterisk there. So that's an additive which can be included into liquids, and that kills Legionella. Boosh, done. However, part of the benefits of a biofilm, as far as the bacteria are concerned, is that it kind of protects itself from those sorts of chemical attacks. So actually, the chlorine dioxide, yes, will kill Legionella, but it won't necessarily eliminate the biofilms where it may be living. Best thing, prevention of biofilm formation. So it could be some additives. It could be making sure everything is nice and smooth. Again, we're not going to do that in a sprinkler environment, really. Environment. So yeah, looking at temperatures, sources of nutrients, etc. We can actually look to remove biofilms. We can do some kind of heat shock. We can whack them, so some sort of shear stress, ultrasound, don't know, chemicals. So there are ways of removing biofilm. But again, for a sprinkler system, yes, we could have a go at that in the tank, but in the pipes, well, first of all, we've got to find out where it is. That's going to be tricky, and then actually removing it's going to be tricky. It's just not going to happen. And then prevention from dispersal. So again, when I say dispersion, I don't mean water spray. Now I'm talking about the biofilm sort of reaching maturity and then dispersal. So again, we can take away the nutrients, or we can put additives into the water. So those are kind of all the things that we can do. But as far as a sprinkler system goes, there isn't a massive amount that we can do, because in my opinion, there isn't a great deal of need to do anything. The risk is low, because the chance. First of all, you need to have Legionella within the pipe, and you probably don't. And if you do, it's got to be inhaled. Well, the water droplets are too large. If you do have it, then the temperature's got to be warm, and most of the time it isn't. Most people that come into contact with Legionnaires are absolutely fine. Those that aren't fine normally are okay eventually. So to actually have a Legionella's death, which again we haven't had for a sprinkler system so far, recorded anywhere in the world, it's a pretty rare event. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do anything at all, but it is a low risk type affair, in my opinion. There is some further reading here, so you can download these documents from the HSE website, and also riskauthority.co.uk has a specific document, recommendations for minimising the impact of Legionella in firefighting systems. So a lot of that, I've been referring to in my previous slides. But yeah, so the main things for me are the temperature, keeping the tanks covered, and keeping them checked. So yeah, that's it for today. Hope you found that useful, as per usual. If there are any questions or comments, then once again I will do my best to answer them. But this isn't my area of expertise, as I've already said, so I may not be able to help, certainly from a kind of scientific point of view. Next week is the latest sprinkler news. That's when I just have a look at maybe some latest products, innovations, changes to standards, things that are happening in the news, which are related to sprinklers, and I'll just give a kind of a roundup really, and show you what's going on really. So I hope you can join me again for that. Can't see any questions in the chat. Have a quick look on Facebook. No. Seem to be. Refresh the page. Nope, doesn't look like it. So yeah, again, I hope you found that useful, and join me again next week for a roundup of the latest sprinkler news. Okay, hope you have a good day, good afternoon, and I'll see you again. Bye bye.